Please subscribe, it will change my life and it is only a click. Greetings Earthlings, Aduzi here and welcome to a journey through the what-ifs of human ingenuity. Have you ever paused to consider the delicate, almost fragile chain of events that leads to a groundbreaking discovery? The universe in its grand, indifferent dance often presents us with moments where a slight nudge, a missed observation or a lack of funding could have sent us down an entirely different technological trajectory. These aren't just abstract thought experiments, they are pivotal junctures that have profoundly shaped our history, our conflicts, and indeed the very fabric of our global economy. Today we're diving into the inventions that almost didn't happen, and how they shaped the world wars, the economy, and our GDP. Imagine a world without the silent, watchful eyes of radar during the Battle of Britain, or a battlefield where minor wounds were still death sentences, without the miracle of penicillin. Consider the skies untransformed by the roar of jet engines, or an energy landscape devoid of the atom's immense power. These are not mere gadgets, they are keystones in the arch of modern civilization. Innovations that teetered on the brink of non-existence. We'll explore the serendipitous accidents, the relentless perseverance, and the sheer intellectual leaps that brought these world-altering technologies into being, often against considerable odds. We'll examine their crucial roles in the crucible of global conflict, particularly the world wars, and then trace their ripple effects through our economies, looking at how they fueled industries, created jobs, and fundamentally altered the metrics by which we measure national prosperity, like the gross domestic product. So, buckle up, because we're about to explore the profound impact of inventions that almost slipped through humanity's grasp. Consider the vastness of the night sky, or the impenetrable expanse of the ocean. Before radar, these realms concealed approaching threats. An enemy fleet, a squadron of bombers, they could materialize with terrifying speed, but radar changed everything. Sending out an invisible query and listening for an echo, radar revealed what the naked eye could not. This is the story of radar. As 122 loomed, Britain needed an early warning system. The chain home system became Britain's electronic shield. Providing crucial minutes of warning, it allowed the RAF to meet the enemy. Radar technology evolved, playing a pivotal role in the Battle of the Atlantic. Each detection was a victory for the Allied war effort. The demand for radar spurred massive investment in electronics research and manufacturing. Now let's shift our gaze from the grand scale of radio waves and aerial combat to the microscopic realm, a world teeming with life, some of it beneficial, much of it hostile to human health. For millennia, infection was a terrifying specter. A simple scratch, a minor wound sustained in battle or daily life could lead to a gruesome, agonizing death. Surgeons could perform incredible feats, but their efforts were often undone by the invisible enemy's bacteria. This was the grim reality before the dawn of antibiotics, a reality that almost persisted. The story of penicillin is famously one of serendipity, a testament to the role of chance in scientific discovery. In 1928, Alexander Fleming, a bacteriologist at St. Mary's Hospital in London, returned from holiday to find a petri dish contaminated with mold. Many would have discarded it, annoyed at the ruined experiment. But Fleming noticed something extraordinary. Around the mold, the colonies of Staphylococcus bacteria had been destroyed. That mold was producing a substance that killed bacteria. It was a eureka moment, but one that almost went unheeded. Fleming published his findings, but the scientific community was slow to grasp the full implications. The substance was difficult to isolate, purify, and produce in large quantities. For over a decade, penicillin remained largely a laboratory curiosity, its immense life-saving potential untapped. Imagine, the cure for countless deadly infections existed, identified, yet was just out of reach. This period represents another, almost didn't-happen juncture. Without the later determined efforts of a team at Oxford University, penicillin might have remained a footnote in obscure scientific journals. As World War II erupted, the need for a powerful antibacterial agent became desperately acute. Battlefields are breeding grounds for infection. Wounded soldiers, even those with injuries that weren't immediately fatal, were dying in droves from sepsis, gangrene, and other bacterial onslaughts. The casualty rates from infection in previous wars, like World War I, were horrific. Medical officers were fighting a losing battle with limited tools. The prospect of a drug that could decisively combat these infections was a strategic imperative as much as a humanitarian one. Howard Florey, Ernst Chain, and Norman Heatley at Oxford University took up Fleming's forgotten work in the late 1930s. Their task was monumental. They had to figure out how to grow the mold efficiently, extract the active compound, stabilize it, and then prove its efficacy and safety in animal and human trials. This required incredible ingenuity, persistence, and often makeshift equipment. They were, quite literally, inventing the field of antibiotic production on the fly, driven by the escalating crisis of the war. The initial quantities of penicillin produced were minuscule, precious beyond measure. Early trials on patients were dramatic. Individuals on the brink of death from overwhelming infections made miraculous recoveries. The challenge then became scaling up production from laboratory curiosity to industrial-scale manufacturing, a task that Britain, under siege, couldn't manage alone. This is where the United States entered the picture, with its vast industrial capacity transforming penicillin from a rare elixir into a widely available medicine. Consider the impact on troop survival rates. Maps illustrating casualty figures from, say, the North African campaign or the D-Day landings when compared to similar engagements in World War I would show a dramatic decrease in deaths from infected wounds once penicillin became available. Chapter 3. From Whispers to Roars. The jet engine reshapes the skies. For the first few decades of powered flight, the propeller was king. From the Wright brothers' first tentative hops to the mighty bombers of the early Second World War, spinning blades clawed their way through the air, pulling aircraft forward. But propellers have limitations, inherent physical barriers to speed and altitude. As aircraft design pushed these limits, a new form of propulsion was needed, one that could unleash unprecedented power and velocity. This was the promise of the jet engine, an invention that reshaped aviation. The concept of jet propulsion isn't new. Think of Hero of Alexandria's Aeolipile. But harnessing this principle into a practical, powerful and reliable aircraft engine was an immense engineering challenge. Two figures stand out, Frank Whittle in Britain and Hans von Ohain in Germany. Both faced skepticism, funding difficulties and immense technical hurdles. Their parallel journeys are a classic tale of innovation against the odds. Whittle, a Royal Air Force officer, patented his design for a turbojet engine in 1930. However, official interest was lukewarm and funding was scarce. He persevered, often with his own limited resources, facing setback after setback. It's a story of incredible tenacity. Imagine the frustration of knowing you have a world-changing idea but struggling to convince those in power of its potential. This period of struggle is where the almost didn't happen. Narrative is particularly strong for the jet engine's timely arrival. Meanwhile, in Germany, Hans von Ohain, a young physicist, was also developing a jet engine, finding more receptive ears and resources, particularly within the German aviation industry and military. This led to the Heinkel Her 178 making the world's first flight powered solely by a turbojet in August 1939, just days before the war began. While a significant milestone, this early engine was far from combat ready. The race was on, not just to build a jet engine, but to build one that could be weaponized. The strategic implications were clear, at least to the visionaries. Jet aircraft promised speeds and altitudes unattainable by propeller-driven planes. This meant they could intercept bombers with ease, outrun existing fighters, and potentially revolutionize aerial reconnaissance. The nation that could master jet technology first would gain a significant, perhaps decisive aerial advantage. The pressures of World War II accelerated development programs in both Britain and Germany, and later, the United States. The first operational jet fighter to see combat was the German Messerschmitt May 262. When it appeared in the skies over Europe in 1944, it was a shock to Allied pilots. It was significantly faster than any Allied fighter, able to attack bomber formations and escape with relative impunity. Though introduced too late and in insufficient numbers to change the war's outcome, the Me 262 offered a terrifying glimpse of the future of air combat. Its existence spurred even greater urgency in Allied jet programs like Britain's Gloucester Meteor, which saw limited action towards the war's end. The development of these early jet engines was a triumph of materials, science, thermodynamics, and precision engineering. They operated at extreme temperatures and rotational speeds, pushing the boundaries of what was then possible. The economic investment was substantial, involving dedicated research facilities, new manufacturing processes, and specialized training for engineers and technicians. Chapter 4. Unleashing the Atom, a double-edged sword of power. Of all the scientific endeavors accelerated by World War II, none carries the same weight as the harnessing of nuclear energy. The atomic bomb and nuclear power are a narrative of human intellect, unlocking forces capable of both destruction and creation. This invention almost didn't happen, shrouded in secrecy and ethical debate. The early 20th century saw a revolution in physics. Einstein's LMC2 and the understanding of nuclear fission were groundbreaking. The idea of a nuclear chain reaction was largely speculative. The fear of Nazi Germany developing a weapon first galvanized the Manhattan Project. Brilliant minds like Einstein, Fermi, and Oppenheimer redefined humanity's understanding of the universe. Leo Szilard's realization of a nuclear chain reaction in 1933 was critical. Translating this concept into reality required unprecedented resources and collaboration. This was science on an industrial scale. The path was far from certain. What if key scientists hadn't fled persecution in Europe? What if the Einstein-Szilard letter to President Roosevelt hadn't been heeded? What if the technical challenges had proven insurmountable? The geopolitical impact of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was immediate. It brought an end to World War II and ushered in the nuclear age and the Cold War. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction became a cornerstone of international relations. The atom's power was always envisioned as a dual-edged sword. Scientists understood the potential for controlled nuclear fission to generate electricity. The post-war era saw the development of nuclear reactors for power generation. The Atoms for Peace initiative opened up a new frontier in the energy sector. The economic impact of nuclear technology has been immense. The initial investment in the Manhattan Project was staggering. The development of the nuclear power industry required massive capital outlays. This created specialized jobs and spurred innovation in nuclear engineering and safety systems. Nuclear power became a significant component of the energy mix for many nations. For countries with limited fossil fuel resources, nuclear power offered a path to energy independence. The growth of the energy sector was influenced by nuclear power, providing baseload electricity. However, the economic story of nuclear power is also one of significant challenges. These factors have led to periods of stagnation and decline in the nuclear industry. Yet, the advancements spurred by nuclear research extend far beyond weapons and power plants. Radioisotopes have revolutionized medicine in areas like cancer treatment and diagnostic imaging. Chapter 5. The unfolding tapestry: chance, choice, and change. So, we've journeyed through pivotal moments where science, circumstance, and sheer human will converged, often against the odds, to bring forth inventions that reshaped our world. From the invisible shield of radar to the microscopic might of penicillin, from the sky-altering roar of jet engines to the awesome power of the atom, these technologies were not inevitable. They were born from critical junctures, moments where a different choice, a failed experiment, or a lack of vision could have sent history cascading down an entirely different path, profoundly altering the outcomes of wars and the trajectory of our global economy. The echoes of these almost didn't happen moments resonate even today. They remind us that progress is not a straight line, but a complex tapestry woven with threads of brilliance, serendipity, desperation.